2-point perspective, the relationship between those two vanishing points is the station point. And the relationship between those two vanishing points are based on a 90-degree angle sitting at the station point. So if you put a 90-degree angle at the station point, and you bring these angles all the way up to your horizon line, that's where you should properly place those two vanishing points. Because, remember, this is where the person is standing. You know, we're trying to draw as accurate as possible. So if I were to, and don't worry, we're going to cover this in a couple of weeks. If I were to place one vanishing point here, and another vanishing point here, these two would give me a proper distance apart, and pretty much anything I draw on the sheet of paper is going to have proper distortion. I'm not going to get these weird angles on my boxes or planes. Okay, but we'll talk about that. I'm not going to get any narrowness to them. All right, I'm still going to keep this one. Okay, so I got my paper down. You can see the cone of vision. You know, you may not see your cone of vision, but at least you have at least the width of your cone of vision. If you were to take this distance and place it here on this midline, you'll at least know where the width is and where the bottom part of your cone of vision is. Yes? I took my compass. Oh, well, I have this 60-degree angle coming from the station point all the way up to the horizon line. And I got my compass, place my compass. I know it looks perfect, but I didn't draw it. Could I draw it? Maybe. Okay, but I use my compass, and after that I place a point here, and I whip this all the way around, so I get my circle. Sure you do. You can borrow it. Did anyone else want to borrow one? I have 2 others. Come on down. The price is right because it's free. Well, you can't own it. You guys can borrow that one. Can you give this? Maria, do you have one? Okay, see if this one works. Yeah, that one might be small. See if you can use that one. Thank you. Okay, you can pass it around and try it out. Yes. Ask it. Yes. Exactly. Now, why, can somebody tell Toria why it's the same distance? Exactly, because you're using a 45-90 triangle. Okay. For the same reason that the width and height of a square is determined by a 45-degree angle. Okay. Let me see, where are my thoughts? Let's draw some structure. Now, we're going to use this. We're going to use this later on. We're going to use the diagonal vanishing point later on, and we're going to use the station point later on. But for now, we're going to draw some form. So we're going to go beyond shape and draw form. So let's go ahead and just start with a simple box. So we can actually place, well, I'm not going to draw anything in the center right now. Usually people do, but I'm going to make a box right here. So I'm going to start with a rectangle. It's not a square. It looks like a square. It's not a square. So I'm starting with a box, and I'm going to use all 4 of these lines, all 4 of these corners. I'm going to draw lines converging to the vanishing point. Some of you have drawn shapes like this before. So we're taking all the information that we learned on Tuesday and applying them to this. So this is a follow-up lecture to what we did on Tuesday. You can make this as long as you want, but do not draw to infinity. Now, this isn't that big. This is only maybe a couple inches wide. And with this, I'm going to choose how deep to make it and draw lines all the way around. So I have to assume that people have at least done this in their beginning drawing class, right? In your beginning drawing class, did you do 1-point perspective, real simple stuff like this? Did anybody not do this in your beginning drawing class? It's okay if you didn't. If you didn't, then we'll move on. Okay. So I want you guys to draw 5. 5 of them. Doesn't have to be the same, they don't have to be the same size. They could, but they don't have to be the same size. So I'm going to make some large and small. With these 5, they are not going to overlap. Well, yeah, these 5 aren't going to overlap. The next 5 might overlap. Okay, so what's our big goal today? Our big goal is to draw squares, or I'm sorry, to draw cubes. But we're going to draw these forms first. So again, I'm keeping my lines very light. That's why they're red. When I draw the rest of these forms in here, or I'm sorry, when I draw the rest of these edges in here, I'm not doing this and kind of making up where it is. I already have this vertical here, but I'm not doing this, just trying to choose an angle and trying to make it look right. Make it look right by using your straight edges properly. Use your T-square. To use your T-square to make all horizontal lines that are parallel to the horizon line. And when you create your vertical lines, make sure your triangle is butted up onto your T-square just to make it work. Now, what I have seen a lot of students do, and it's fine, you can do this too, they'll do things like this. They'll just put a bunch of lines on there. Based on that, they'll draw their shapes. And then they'll draw lines converging to the vanishing point. You know, I noticed on the calendar that Halloween falls on a Tuesday. I'm sure some of you started thinking about if you're gonna dress up on Halloween. You guys can come to school dressed up if you want. I do have students that do that. Just don't get any makeup on your drawing. I know some of you are into cosplay. Okay, so you can see my lines are quite light. So with these, I'm going to, when I start to see that the drawing is looking correct, I will darken some of my lines, or my object lines. And I'll erase lines that are unnecessary. Now I'm only going to do this to about 3 or 4 of them. You'll notice that this construction line in here, or this ghost line in here, remains light. But I do need to make it a little bit darker so it matches the others, like that. So with these 5, I'm going to make all of the object lines darker. Remember, the object lines are not interior lines. Those are ghost lines. So in the end, what I have left is 5 boxes. Now, this entire drawing requires that you draw 10 boxes altogether. The other 5 boxes you're going to draw behind these. Okay. Now, we're only going to do 1 in class, so you guys can see me do it. You could draw the other 4 at home for homework. Okay. So if everybody can look up here, I'll draw one behind. Let's see. I'll draw one down here. Actually, yeah, I actually draw it here. So it's always helpful to start, it can be very helpful to just start with the plane that is facing you, the plane that is closest to you. It doesn't matter which one you're drawing, whether it's in the front and the back. It's a little bit, usually it's a little bit easier to draw what's coming forward. So again, if all of you guys can watch, that would be great. That way you'll be able to see how to do it. Okay, so I have to decide how deep to make it. I think I'll make it about this deep. Now, all of these converging lines can make it confusing, but that is part of the challenge of drawing in perspective. All right, so now I'm going to draw the object lines. So we can see it with pretty decent clarity. Okay, so there it is. Now, still not done because I do have to clean it up. So, after I start to finalize these, I can begin to erase the construction lines. And I might have to reiterate some of the lines. I might have to go back and fix them, fix some of the edges. So that's why we're only going to do one in class just for the sake of time, because we do have a lot to cover. You'll notice as I'm erasing, my structured approach is not being erased because it's underneath everything. That's one of the reasons why we can do it on this large sheet of paper and then do our drawing on this paper. That way we preserve it. Okay, so now I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Make my ghost lines look like ghost lines again. So if I need to reiterate any of these lines for the cleanup, I can do that here. Oh, I have these two I have to erase too. Now, does this mean you have to get one of these fancy tools? No, you don't have to. But these are really cool to have. You don't have to pay an arm and a leg for them either. You don't have to buy the Sakura brand, which is imported from Japan. You can get the inexpensive ones at Miniso. Those are only a couple dollars. Okay, so in the end, it's going to look something like that. So you can see all of the construction lines have been erased. I cleaned up everything else. You can actually see all the overlapping lines in its proper presentation. So I can see some of them need to be a little bit darker. All of your object lines should be the same weight, as well as your ghost lines. They should be the same line weight, or this, let's say the same value. That way you can clearly see everything that you want to show. I think this needs to be done a little bit clearer here. There we go. Even this one. So do at least do one that's overlapped behind everything. So you have 5 in front and you have 5 behind. Only draw one behind today, because we're gonna move on after that. We're not